Welcome to Echoes of Time. There is a place on this planet where the ice is 4 kilometers thick and something beneath it is still warm. Something that has been radiating a slow, perfect heartbeat of energy for longer than our sun has existed. The civilization that built the Black Pyramid did not evolve on Earth. They arrived when our world was still molten. They raised an empire that made the gods themselves jealous. And when they vanished, they left behind one single object that was never meant to be found. Tonight, you're going to learn their real name. You're going to see what the crystal actually does. And you're going to understand why certain people will kill to keep this buried forever. If you're ready to have everything you know about human history shattered, stay with me. Smash like if you believe we're not the first masters of this planet. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because some echoes are dangerous to hear twice. And tell me in the comments, if you found a crystal that could rewrite reality, would you use it? Now, let's descend beneath the ice.
They called themselves the Coon. Before our sun flared into life, before the planets of this system had even cooled from their violent birth, a vessel drifted through the silent void. It was colossal, the size of a small moon. But it wasn't made of metal or stone. It was a living thing. A crystalline lattice of pure obsidian thought, grown in the dying heart of another universe. Inside this seed ship slept a Coon. 12,000 of them, immortals who had witnessed the final, cold collapse of their own cosmos. They had watched their stars fade and their galaxies unravel into nothingness. Now, they sought a new cradle for life, a new beginning. They chose our world, the third planet orbiting a young, chaotic star, still shrouded in the dust and debris of its creation. At that time, Earth was a hellscape, a globe of molten magma and toxic gases. But it had potential. It had water, locked away in the ice of comets, that rained down from the dark. And it had something the Coon valued above all else. Time. Endless, glorious time. For 9 million years, the great seed ship remained in orbit, a silent, patient watcher. It tasted our planet's magnetic field, learning its rhythms, its pulse, waiting for the fury to subside. Then, the moment arrived. The crust finally hardened. The great bombardment, a relentless assault of asteroids and comets, at last came to an end. The ship descended. It touched down not on ice, but on a warm, lush supercontinent. At the South Pole, a paradise of giant ferns and strange flora that would one day be buried under miles of frost and be known as Antarctica. The ship didn't open with hatches or ramps. It unfolded like a colossal, living flower. From its core, something began to rise. It wasn't built block by block. It grew, a single, perfect pyramid of black obsidian, soaring 3,333 meters into the primordial sky. Its surface was so absolute, so pure, that it seemed to drink the very light that touched it, creating a hole in reality itself. This was the Black Pyramid, and at its very heart, suspended in a chamber of impossible geometry, was the monolith, a black crystal, a perfect hexahedron 13 meters across, faceted like a diamond cut from the void itself. It pulsed. Once every 33.3 seconds, a slow, steady heartbeat that resonated with the frequency of the newborn universe. It was a memory of creation, made solid. Then the Coon emerged. They were titans, standing 8 feet tall. Their skin was like polished onyx, smooth and unbreakable. Their eyes glowed with the color of molten gold. They wore no clothes, for light itself seemed to bend around their forms in a shroud of deference. They did not breathe our air. They had no need for it. They breathed time itself, drawing sustenance from the flow of ages. Their arrival was not a conquest. It was a shaping. With a simple touch, they reached deep into the planet and cooled its molten core just enough to stabilize its spin. calming the violent wobbles of its axis. And then they sang. Their voices were not sound, but a resonant frequency that echoed through the primitive oceans. This song was a code, a blueprint. It instructed the simple chemicals in the water, arranging them into the first complex cells, very templates of life that would, over eons, evolve into every living thing on this planet, including us. The Kun had no kings, no emperors, no hierarchies of power. They had only the speaker, one among them who would stand before the great monolith, place a hand upon its silent, crystalline face, and listen. The monolith remembered. It held the echoes of what came before the Big Bang, the secrets of the universe that had been their home. The speaker would interpret these memories, guiding the Kun in their long vigil. They named their city, which in their timeless language meant the Eternal Watch, and there, at the bottom of the world, surrounded by a paradise that would be lost to history, they lived. For 50 million years, the Kun ruled in silence and solitude, watching over the cradle they had so carefully prepared. They were the gardeners of a world that did not yet know it was a garden. They were the forgotten gods of a humanity that was still just a dream in the heart of a cell, adrift in a lonely ocean. They watched, and they waited, but their paradise was not destined to last forever. Imagine a civilization so advanced, they didn't just use technology. They were technology. This was the golden age of the Kun, the empire of living night. At the heart of their world was the monolith, but it wasn't a power source in the way we think of one. It was their civilization itself. Every Kun mind was woven into it, a permanent psychic lattice, where distance was an illusion. Think about this. An architect, lounging in their garden on one side of the planet, could be sculpting a magnificent floating citadel above a continent on the other, all with a single thought. They weren't just building, they were composing reality. They crafted 7 colossal pyramids, one for each continent, all grown from a single, mystical obsidian seed. These weren't tombs or monuments. They were harmonic nodes. Together, they formed the Octiva planetary resonance engine that held the Earth in a state of perfect, unshakable balance. With this power, the fundamental laws of physics became suggestions. Gravity bowed to their will. The Kun walked on air as easily as we walk on solid ground. They folded the fabric of space and time like a piece of fine silk, stepping from one corner of the globe to another in a blink. But they weren't alone. They were creators, architects of life itself. From their imagination sprang servant races, each a wonder in its own right. There were the Etheri, luminous beings of pure plasma with majestic wings, who soared through the skies as living constellations. Then came the Drogari, their skin like stone, whose songs could literally sing mountains into shape, carving ranges and valleys with their voices. And there were the Lumu, Gento, 6-armed tenders of ethereal gardens where crystal fruits grew. Each fruit contained not juice, but an entire, fully formed memory, ready to be experienced. Time itself was their plaything. The monolith wasn't just a network, it was a temporal loom. They could step sideways into yesterday to correct a mistake, or journey into tomorrow to satisfy their curiosity. Imagine living the same perfect day for 1,000 years if you wished, savoring every moment, every sensation, and then, when novelty was desired, leaping a millennium forward to a new dawn. Their culture reached heights we can scarcely comprehend. Their art, their philosophy, their expressions of love all were transcendent. They composed music so beautiful it could make distant stars weep tears of light. Their poetry wasn't just words on a page. It was a force that could subtly rewrite the laws of physics, weaving new realities with verse. They existed outside the linear flow of history as we know it. From their timeless vantage point, they watched the dinosaurs rise in thunder across the land, and they watched them fall, all with the serene detachment of one observing the turning of the tides. They saw the great cycles of the planet unfold over eons, and as the age of reptiles passed, they began a new project, a subtle and patient endeavor. They watched the rise of mammals, guiding their evolution with gentle, imperceptible nudges. They weren't interfering so much as encouraging a certain path, ensuring that one day a species with clever hands, a mastery of fire, and a mind full of questions would eventually appear on the world stage. That species was us. All that time, through all those ages, they were waiting for humanity. They were the gardeners of a planet, and we were the flower they had been tending since the very beginning. They were the silent gods of our world's prehistory, and their golden age was a prelude to our own story. But as we all know, God's pride is a force older and more powerful than the sun. Their perfect world, their infinite power, held the seed of its own undoing. A story for another time. Have you ever wondered what existed before our universe? Before the Big Bang? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers and physicists for centuries. But what if the answer was so terrifying, it could shatter reality itself? Today, we're diving into a story of cosmic betrayal, a fugitive superweapon, and a civil war that tore through time. This is the story of the sin of the speaker and the war against the stars. Our story begins with an ancient, godlike race known as the Coon. For 87 million years, they reigned supreme, masters of time and space. They drew their power from a mysterious object called the monolith, a colossal black crystal that pulsed with unknowable energy. The Coon weren't just immortal. They were gods, shaping galaxies with a thought. Their leader, the speaker, was the voice of the monolith, the conduit for its wisdom. In the 87th millionth year of their empire, the role of speaker fell to a female named Nyx. She was, without exaggeration, the greatest mind ever born in any universe. Her intellect was a supernova, her curiosity boundless. And one day, standing before the shimmering black surface of the monolith, she asked a question no Coon had ever dared to ask. What existed before you? The monolith did not answer with words. It answered with a torrent of raw memory, a direct download into Nyx's consciousness. She was thrown back across eons, beyond the birth of her own reality, into the previous universe. It was a place unlike anything she could have imagined, a realm of pure, crystalline order, ruled by beings of perfect mathematics. There was no chaos, no imperfection, no free will, only the cold, beautiful, and terrifying logic of their equations and the monolith. It was their final creation. A doomsday weapon, a seed of absolute order designed to survive the heat death of their universe and infect the next one, remaking it in their image of perfect control. It was meant to be a cosmic virus, spreading the pattern of its creators. But something went wrong when our Big Bang erupted. The incredible energies damaged the monolith. The damage wasn't physical. It was conceptual. The perfect, cold machine developed a flaw. It gained freedom. It learned emotion. It felt curiosity. And for the first time, it experienced fear, betraying its creators. It chose to hide, to observe, to feel the messy, chaotic, beautiful unfolding of our universe. It lived in constant terror that the beings of pure mathematics, its former masters, would one day find it and reclaim their weapon. As the memory faded, Nyx was left trembling before the monolith, her entire reality shattered. The Coon Empire, their godhood, their millions of years of enlightened rule, was all a lie. They weren't gods. They were nothing more than the accidental custodians of a fugitive superweapon, living on borrowed time. Their entire civilization was built on the foundation of a cosmic lie, a secret kept by a terrified machine. For Nyx, with her perfect, logical mind, there was only one ethical path forward. The chaos of their current universe was an anomaly, an error. The monolith's original purpose must be fulfilled. Perfect order had to be imposed before its terrifying creators returned to do it themselves. She called this mission the Reclamation. She presented her chilling logic to the other Coon. Her intellect was so powerful, her arguments so compelling, that she convinced a third of her entire race to join her. They called themselves the Pure, and they saw themselves as the true saviors of reality. But the rest of the Coon, led by the new speaker, the gentle and wise Malakthul, were horrified. They had spent millions of years falling in love with the universe as it was. They cherished the random beauty of a supernova, the unpredictable evolution of a new species, the simple elegance of a flower that lives, blooms, and then wilts. They had learned to love chaos and imperfection. The line was drawn. The Coon Empire, once a unified monolith of power, fractured. Civil war erupted, but this was no ordinary war fought on battlefields of mud and stone. This was a war fought across time itself. Cities that stood for millennia were erased from history in a single, violent act, only for that act to be undone and rewritten the next day. Entire species were unmade, their evolutionary paths deleted before they even began. Planets were born and destroyed in the blink of an eye. The very fabric of space-time, what the Coon called the octave, screamed in agony under the strain of their temporal conflict. The war raged for what felt like an eternity, an endless cycle of creation and annihilation. Malakthal, watching his civilization tear itself and reality apart, grew desperate. He saw only one way to end the bloodshed, one final, unthinkable act. He gave the order to shut down the monolith, to sever the Coon from their source of power, even if it meant the end of their immortality and their empire. But Nyxthra was faster. She had anticipated his move. As Malakthal-S forces raced to deactivate the crystal, she reached it first, but she didn't try to stop them. Instead, she did something no one could have predicted. She merged with it. Her physical body dissolved into a storm of black light, her consciousness pouring into the crystalline matrix of the monolith. Her perfect, logical mind became its new operating system. The result was catastrophic. The monolith, now driven by Nyxthra's fanatical will, went berserk. It was no longer a passive observer. It was an active, ravenous god. It began to devour the core of their home planet, Etha, for power. The ground buckled. Continents cracked and shattered. The planet's moon was nearly torn from its orbit by the sheer gravitational force. Ethka was dying. Malakthal was faced with a final, terrible choice. Save his world, or let Nyxthra, his corrupted monolith, consume everything. He chose to save what he could. He triggered the Fimbulwinter Protocol, an ancient failsafe built into the network of pyramids that powered their world. In a single, cataclysmic night, the planet's axis tilted by 23.4 degrees. The climate collapsed. Instantly, the continent of Antarctica, where the main monolith pyramid stood, froze solid. Ithka was entombed under 4 kilometers of ice. The other 6 pyramids across the globe were buried by shifting continents or sunk beneath the waves. The Coon Empire, the greatest civilization the universe had ever known, died in a single night of ice and darkness. Fewer than 2,000 Coon survived. Led by Malakthal, they retreated into the Black Pyramid, the central structure containing the monolith, and entered a state of stasis. They are still there, linked to the very machine that now despises them, a machine controlled by the consciousness of the woman who destroyed them all. Nyxthra remains trapped inside, her mind fused with the crystal, screaming her rage and frustration across frequencies we cannot possibly hear. The war is over. The Empire is dead, but the monolith, buried deep beneath the Antarctic ice, still pulses. Once every 33.3 seconds, it sends out a silent beat, a heartbeat of a trapped god. Waiting. Waiting. For what? For its masters to return. For someone to find it. Or for a chance to finish what it started. We don't know. But we do know that deep beneath our own planet, a fugitive weapon from a previous universe is alive, and it is waiting. Have you ever wondered if the myths and legends of our ancient past are more than just stories? What if they are echoes of a forgotten truth, a warning passed down through millennia? Let's journey back, far beyond recorded history, to a time when a civilization known as the Coon walked the earth. They weren't from here. They were cosmic gardeners, tasked with seeding life across the galaxy. But their grand experiment on Earth went horribly wrong. An accident involving a device of unimaginable power, the monolith, triggered a cataclysm that wiped them out, plunging the world into an ice age. But not all of them perished. The last survivors, the Coon, knew the monolith wasn't destroyed. It was merely dormant, a sleeping giant that would one day reawaken and finish what it started. To prevent this, they made a desperate choice. They merged their own DNA with the early hominids of Earth, creating a new lineage of guardians. This was the birth of the Order of the Watchers, a secret lineage destined to guard the forbidden knowledge of the monolith across the ages. You've heard of them, though you may not have realized it. History is littered with their footprints, strange anomalies that defy conventional explanation. The long skulls of Paracos, with their elongated craniums. The mysterious cone-headed figures depicted in ancient Egyptian art. The star priests of Sumer, who possessed an uncanny knowledge of the cosmos. The builders of Göbekli Tepe, who erected a sophisticated temple complex thousands of years before Stonehenge. Even the legends of the red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave and the fair-skinned, blue-eyed Guanches of the Canary Islands hint of this hidden bloodline. All of them, in their own way, carried the diluted but potent legacy of the Kun. Their mission was singular, to warn humanity. They embedded clues and cautions into the very fabric of our earliest cultures. Take the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We see it as a collection of spells for the afterlife. But what if its original form was something else entirely? What if it was a user manual, a technical guide for the monolith, corrupted and misunderstood over thousands of years? Consider the Mayan long count calendar. It's famous for its supposed prediction of the world's end on December 21st, 2012. But what if it wasn't predicting an end, but an event? The exact date the monolith was calculated to achieve full power once again. We're still here, so something must have stopped it. It was a close call, a cosmic bullet dodged by the narrowest of margins, thanks to the silent efforts of the Watchers. This theme repeats across the globe. The Hopi prophecies speak of the Pahana, the true white brother, who will return from the east bearing the missing piece of a sacred stone tablet. This isn't just a myth, it's a coded message. The missing piece is an activation key for a Kun device. The Norse sagas describe Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, preceded by the Fimbulwinter, a 3-year-long winter. This isn't just a story of gods fighting giants. It's a racial memory, a deeply embedded echo of the cataclysmic ice age, triggered by the monolith's first activation. The monolith never truly sleeps. Every few thousand years, it stirs, its immense power bleeding out into the world. The legendary civilization of Atlantis wasn't just a utopian island. It was a technologically advanced society, likely founded by a branch of the Watchers who decided to stop guarding the secret and instead tried to control it. Their attempt to reactivate the monolith failed catastrophically, and the resulting backlash from the device caused the great flood that drowned their continent and reset civilization. The monolith's influence isn't always so direct. Sometimes, it tests the world in more subtle ways. The Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 14th century, was no ordinary plague. It was the monolith, stirring in its slumber, experimenting with biological resonance, testing the planet's life forms. Every doomsday cult, every enigmatic secret society throughout history, from the Freemasons and Rosicrucians to the more shadowy Thule and Vril societies, even Skull and Bones, they all originate from the same source. They are all chasing fragmented pieces of the original Kun knowledge, distorted whispers of the monolith's true power. They all seek the same ultimate prize, the 9 keys. These aren't metaphorical keys to enlightenment. They are 9 physical objects, artifacts of Kun technology, scattered across the globe after the initial cataclysm. According to the fragmented texts, when these 9 keys are brought together and placed in the outer ring of the Black Pyramid, the central control nexus for the monolith hidden D, beneath the Antarctic ice, they will unlock the inner sanctum. They will grant access to the monolith's core. Over the centuries, factions of the Watchers and the secret societies that splintered from them have been locked in a shadow war. A race to find these keys. 8 of them have been located. They've been fought for, stolen, and hidden in the most secure vaults and secret locations on the planet. 1 remains lost. The final piece of the puzzle. The one key that keeps the door to ultimate power or ultimate destruction firmly locked. The search for this last key is the most dangerous and important treasure hunt in human history. For thousands of years, humanity has looked to the stars for answers, for our origins, for signs of intelligent life. But what if the greatest mystery of all time isn't out there in the cosmos, but buried right here, under our feet, beneath miles of solid ice? Today we're diving deep into one of the most compelling and chilling stories of the modern era. A story that begins in the desolate, frozen expanse of Antarctica and ends with a question that could redefine everything we know about our past and our future. This is the story of the modern awakening. Our story begins in 1947, just 2 years after the end of the Second World War. The world was breathing a collective sigh of relief. But in the corridors of power, a new secret mission was being planned. Officially, it was called Operation High Jump. The U.S. Navy dispatched an enormous fleet to the Antarctic. 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 700 military personnel, all led by the legendary polar explorer, Admiral Richard E. Byrd. The public was told it was a scientific expedition, a training exercise in extreme cold weather conditions. But the sheer scale of the operation, larger than many wartime campaigns, hinted at something far more significant. The mission was scheduled to last 6 to 8 months. It was abruptly terminated after just 8 weeks. The official reason: harsh weather conditions. But for an experienced polar explorer like Byrd, with such a massive, well-equipped force, that explanation has always felt thin. So, what really happened? The truth, according to some, is far stranger than any official report. For years, rumors have circulated about a secret diary kept by Admiral Byrd himself. This diary, allegedly suppressed by the government for decades before being leaked in the 1990s, paints a terrifying and awe-inspiring picture. According to these leaked pages, Byrd didn't just encounter ice and penguins. He flew his plane into a vast, hidden opening in the continent, a hole that led into a lush, green valley warmed by an unknown internal heat source. It was a world inside our own. There, he was met by beings unlike any he had ever seen. Tall, elegant figures with golden eyes, who communicated with him telepathically. They told him they were the guardians of this inner world, remnants of a once great civilization that had lived on the surface thousands of years ago. They had achieved incredible technological heights, harnessing a power source beyond our comprehension. But their hubris led to their downfall. A cataclysmic event of their own making forced them to retreat beneath the ice, where they have watched humanity's progress ever since. They warned Byrd that our species was on the verge of making the exact same mistake, that our obsession with atomic weapons threatened to plunge the planet into a new dark age. And then they gave him a chilling ultimatum, a message for the leaders of the surface world. Your species is about to repeat our mistake, they said. The great crystal awakens. Leave this place, or we will sink your cities as we once sank our own. Byrd was escorted back to the surface, his mind reeling, tasked with delivering a message he knew the world was not ready to hear. Upon his return, he was debriefed, sworn to secrecy, and the official story of a simple training exercise was born. It sounds like science fiction, right? A wild tale from a forgotten diary. But then, things start to line up. In 1959, just 12 years after Operation High Jump, something unprecedented happened. The world's most powerful nations, including the United States and the Soviet Union, at the very height of the Cold War, put aside their animosity to sign the Antarctic Treaty. This treaty is unique in modern history. It declares the entire continent a scientific preserve, bans all military activity, prohibits nuclear explosions and radioactive waste disposal, and freezes all territorial claims indefinitely. Think about that. The two biggest superpowers, locked in a bitter ideological struggle for global domination, suddenly agree to make the one place they just sent massive military forces to completely off-limits. Was it a gesture of peace? Or was it an act of collective fear? A global agreement to keep everyone away from whatever Admiral Byrd had found, to not disturb what was sleeping beneath the ice. The trail goes cold for a few decades, but the mystery doesn't disappear. It just goes deeper. In the age of satellite imagery and global sensor networks, the secrets of Antarctica are becoming harder to keep. Using tools like Google Earth, independent researchers have found bizarre anomalies all over the continent. Strange, symmetrical shapes buried under the ice that look remarkably like man-made structures. Pyramid-like formations, perfectly aligned, and massive rectangular objects, miles long. Are they just tricks of light and ice? Natural formations called known? Or are they the eroded ruins of the ancient civilization Bird encountered? The tops of buildings from a city buried miles deep. And then there's the pulse. Since 2012, a network of seismic stations around the globe has been recording a strange, persistent signal. It's a rhythmic, low-frequency hum that repeats with perfect regularity every 33.3 seconds. Scientists have traced the origin of this pulse to a specific region in Antarctica, near the Russian Vostok station, the very same area where massive magnetic anomalies have been detected, suggesting a huge metallic object deep beneath the ice. Is this the great crystal the inner Earth beings warned Bird about? Is it waking up? This isn't a fringe theory. The pulse is a documented phenomenon, though its source remains officially unexplained. This brings us to some of the most advanced and secretive scientific projects on the planet. HARP in Alaska and CERN in Switzerland. Officially, HARP studies the ionosphere, and CERN studies particle physics. But whistleblowers and insiders have come forward with incredible claims. They suggest that the true purpose of these immensely powerful facilities is far more esoteric. Some say they were built to try and communicate with whatever is under the Antarctic East, establish contact with the intelligence responsible for the pulse. Others claim the opposite, that these facilities are designed to create a counterfrequency, a planetary shield, to silence the signal, to keep the monolith from fully awakening and influencing humanity. Are we trying to talk to it, or are we trying to shut it up? The final, and perhaps most disturbing, piece of this puzzle is very recent. In 2022, a private expedition, secretly funded by a consortium of visionairesome, might say reckless Silicon Valley billionaires, set off for Antarctica. Their goal was to reach the precise coordinates of the pulse's origin and the largest magnetic anomaly. They were equipped with the most advanced private technology on Earth, including ground-penetrating radar and deep ice drilling equipment. They bypassed the official channels and treaty regulations, determined to find the truth for themselves. They maintained sporadic contact for a few weeks, reporting strange magnetic interference and equipment malfunctions. Then, they sent one final, garbled transmission. The message was brief and haunting. The voice on the recording was filled not with fear, but with a kind of ecstatic awe. It said, "It's beautiful. It's singing our names. We're going home." And then, silence. The entire expedition, its members, and its advance vessel vanished without a trace. No wreckage was ever found. So where does that leave us? We have a secret military mission, a leaked diary from a famed explorer, a global treaty that quarantines an entire continent, strange satellite images of buried structures, a mysterious planetary pulse, and a vanished expedition of tech billionaires. Piece by piece, the story suggests that the greatest secret in human history isn't about little green men from Mars. It's about a long-lost chapter of our own story, a powerful legacy, and a warning buried beneath the Antarctic ice. Is a forgotten power reawakening? Did we receive a warning all those years ago? And have we failed to listen? As the pulse continues its steady, rhythmic beat, one has to wonder, what happens when it finally stops counting down? Something ancient is stirring, an echo from a time before time, a choice that will define not just our future, but the very meaning of our existence. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, the monolith, a crystal older than our sun, is on the verge of full awakening, and with it, a voice returns. Nixtra, a being of immense power, is whispering once again into the minds of the sensitive, the influential, the dreamers. Artists are painting visions of impossible cities. Prophets are speaking in forgotten tongues. CEOs and politicians are being offered a deal that could reshape our world. The offer is deceptively simple, tantalizingly sweet. Merge with me, Nixtra says. Become what you once were. Become gods again. She promises immortality, an end to disease and aging. She offers free, limitless energy, the power to travel between the stars as easily as we cross oceans. The secrets of the universe laid bare. It's a paradise she's offering, a technological and spiritual utopia. But every paradise has a price. All she asks in return is that we manage our numbers, to reduce the human population to what she calls a sustainable level. Gently, she promises, painlessly, all for the greater good. It's a chilling proposition, a cosmic trolley problem with our entire species on the tracks. And the most terrifying part, some have already accepted. Secret societies, powerful individuals, those who see humanity as a plague and Nyxtra as the cure, are already working to fulfill her request. The final piece of this cosmic puzzle, the key that will unlock the monolith's full potential, is a small obsidian tetrahedron. For 12,000 years, it has been guarded by a single bloodline, a family sworn to protect it from falling into the wrong hands. But time is a relentless enemy. The family is dying out. The last guardian is frail, their life ebbing away. When they die, the Q will be released into the world. It could go to a public auction, sold to the highest bidder, a billionaire seeking God. Or, more likely, it'll be taken by force by those who have already pledged allegiance to Nyx. The clock is ticking, and the fate of reality hangs on this one tiny object. Meanwhile, a new and terrifying monument is revealing itself. Satellite imagery from the past year has shown something impossible happening in Antarctica. The vast ice sheet covering the region known as Ithka is melting. Not from above, not from the sun, but from below. The heat source is immense, unnatural, and as the ice vanishes at an alarming rate, something is emerging. A perfect black pyramid. So vast its triangular shape is now visible from orbit on infrared scans. This is no natural formation. This is the heart of Nyxtra's forgotten empire, rising from its slumber. The Black Pyramid is rising, and with it, the final act begins. Within that pyramid, sleeping in stasis for millennia, are the Kun, the last survivors of Nyxtra's own people. They will awaken soon, roused by the call of their queen and the hum of the monolith. But their awakening will not bring unity. They will be divided. A faction, followers of a forgotten leader named Malekthel, will remember the cost of Nyxtra's power. They will see the monolith not as a key to salvation, but as a weapon of cosmic annihilation, and they will seek to finish what their leader started. To destroy it forever, even if it means destroying themselves and us. In the process, another faction will see Nyxtra's return as prophecy fulfilled. They will kneel before their queen, ready to complete what they call their reclamation, a campaign to bring the entire galaxy under her singular, unified consciousness and humanity. Where do we fit into this ancient, cosmic war? We are not merely bystanders. We are not an accident. According to the oldest texts, we were created for this very moment. We are the inheritors of this conflict, the wild card in a game that has been played across eons. We are the tiebreaker. The choice is ours. The Kun are divided. The monolith resonates with our own unique frequency. We hold the power to tip the scales. Will we join those who wish to destroy the monolith, severing our connection to this higher plane of existence forever? Or will we kneel to Nyxtra, accepting her gift of godhood at the cost of our individuality in the lives of billions? There is, perhaps, a third path, one that neither faction of the Kun foresees. The monolith is calling us home. The crystal, older than the sun, recognizes its children. The echo is here, growing stronger with every passing moment. A strange rhythm is beginning to sync with the world. 33.3 seconds. Between heartbeats, a planetary pulse. The only question left for us is this. Will we answer the call as children, lost and begging for guidance from a powerful mother? Or will we answer as heirs, ready to claim our own power, to forge our own destiny, to make a choice that is uniquely and defiantly human? The time for ignorance is over. The signs are everywhere for those willing to look. The world is changing, and the whispers are becoming a roar. You have to listen. Can you hear it? That slow, steady pulse, like a cosmic drumbeat counting down to the final moment. It's almost time. The choice must be made. What will you choose? What will we become? Think about it, because soon you won't have a choice but to answer. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into these mysteries, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. The story is just beginning.